Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Have you ever seen Speed 2 Cruise Control? It is awful. Sorry, I was busy doing something else. It is very, very awful. It is 1 of 13 stars. Look, you can't call something speed and have it on a cruise ship. Speedboat, I could understand. But a cruise ship? Speed 2? I mean, even when you're on the ocean, you could be going like 40, 50, 55 miles an hour or something like that, but it doesn't seem like that because there's no trees whizzing by you. So even in a perspective, concept, idea, there is no relative speed. It just frustrates me that I had to sit through that movie, give it a 1 of 13 stars, and the only reason I really cover this kind of stuff is because the videos where I review movies, sometimes get a few more views. And you know what? The movie is so horrible, you could have put UB40 and Willem Dafoe in that movie, and it wouldn't have made it any better. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. EK's looking at me. He's like, is Willem Dafoe really in that movie? And he's like, yeah, he is. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate it very much. I also have a Cash App. Hashtag Shock Monkey Radio, all one word. Follow me on social media at DNALETSW on Twitter, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's on Amazon.com, or follow the links down in the description below. So, we're going to have a little bit of fun today because I'm going to be talking about... I wanted to get the movie review out of the way. Because everything else is going to be following a very similar theme. Today we're going to be talking about my favorite conspiracy theories. And you may want to argue, some people may argue that some of the things I talk about aren't necessarily conspiracy theories per se. But you got to understand is what I like about conspiracy theories and even ghost videos and ghost stories and stuff like that is that there's always an element of imagination and conjecture when it comes to these things. And I always found that to be the most interesting aspect of a conspiracy theory. But if you have a conspiracy theory that comes true, it turns immediately into news. It's like a Hunter Biden laptop. The Hunter Biden laptop was a really interesting story up until it became news. Now I got to go to the news source for this, not some obscure, weird Reddit thread. You know what I mean? What do they call that? Those threads for spooky stories and stuff like that. What do they call those? Creepypastas. I have no idea what that means. I guess people like eating spaghetti or variation of copy paste. Creepypasta? Copy pasting? Oh, that actually makes more sense. So, I mean, when a conspiracy actually becomes news, I think it's not interesting anymore. And so that's why I think that, a lot of these things may not be conspiracies, but, I like the aspect that allows access to my imagination, And so we'll be talking about the things that, my favorite conspiracy theories in no particular order. We'll go with number 1, the moon. Now, I'm not going to bring up a picture of the moon because you friggin' know what the moon looks like. It's tidally locked with us. The same side is always facing us. We all can almost draw the moon from memory. And if you can't, you need to work on your art skills. So there's lots of conspiracy theories around the moon because it's our, closest, neighbor, I guess you could say, closest, body in space, closest to us. And there's the one I like the most is, not the most, I find it most hilarious is that the moon landing was faked. And look, I'm not going to say that Stanley Kubrick wasn't hired by the U.S. government to film a fake moon landing in case something went wrong on the Apollo 11 mission. I'm not saying that didn't happen, okay? What I'm saying is that I think we actually went there. And people are just like, oh, why is the flag waving in the wind, if there's no wind on the moon? It's like, there's a little bar up there at the top to hold up the flag right. And so when they let go of it, there's still motion in the thing. And they're like, well, why can't you see the stars? He's like, you know why we know the moon is there? It's so friggin' bright because the sunlight is bouncing off its reflective surface. And just like if you live in a city, like if you're in New York, you have a hard time seeing the stars, don't you? Bet you couldn't even get them on film. It's like, why can't people really get this? It's like that thing I saw on like TikTok where somebody's like, or what's it, Instagram, where somebody's like, how does the mirror know what's behind the paper? It's like, do they really not teach angle of, what is it called? Angle of perception or angle of incident, angle of refraction in science anymore? What are these kids learning in school? How to be activists? How to cut off their genitalia? What are you learning if that baffles your mind? Learn something, you idiots. Anyway, but it's... How does the mirror know? How does the mirror know? It's like the mirror is an object. Anyway, it doesn't think. You know? But there's also like the moon could be hollow, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, we'll get back to that later. Like maybe every single planet is hollow. Solid planet is hollow. We'll get to that later. You know, there's all sorts of like there's O3 up on the moon, and with O3 we can use the moon as a launching pad, you know, to other planets. Which I think if that is true, and we can somehow work out a staging area on the moon to launch from there, it'd be incredible, lots cheaper in terms of energy and money to launch, long range missions into further space. So it's amazing that the moon is even there, you know, and the moon is, like I said, tidally locked with the Earth, which gives the motion in our ocean, quite literally. And so the motion in the ocean is what caused life to like start in technically a stagnant pool of water could, because if you had a puddle in your backyard or something like that, you know, stuff starts living in there. You know, you'll get perched soon, you know, perched swimming around in it if you leave it alone too long. But I mean, it's in many ways, you know, that constant motion, the churning of the waves and stuff like that on Earth is very crucial to life. And it's quite interesting. That's actually the only interesting fact about the moon. And as far as any conspiracy theory about the moon is concerned, I really don't care. There really isn't anything there. They brought back a bunch of rocks from the moon, and you know, even geologists, Earth geologists, will look at moon rock and go, meh. There's much more interesting rocks here on Earth. You know what? And so, you know, it's not like the price of rock has gone up since they brought moon rocks down. You know what I mean? And the best thing that ever came from the moon rocks was that Apollo 18 movie where the moon rocks were the bad guys. Have you seen that? It's so bad. Moon is like a really good one, though. Have you seen Moon? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Did you see Mute? Mute? No, I'll have to look that one up.
Mute and Moon are related.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up. I'll look that up some other time. So when it comes to conspiracy theory about the moon, I don't care. I don't care if it's just a decoration God put in the sky. I don't care if it's hollow, you know. I don't care if they faked the moon landing, because it's just the moon. It's not like Mars, where it was like maybe there's water, or I think they did find water on Mars. Ice or something, I don't know. There's far more interesting planets out there besides our moon. And the best part about our moon is that it keeps our planet in that wobble that it is, which gives us seasons. And that's the only thing relevant about the moon, if you ask me. Now we're going to go, I guess, like I said, these are in no particular order. But I guess I'm going to go to, my third favorite, which is the Stoned Ape Theory. Now, those of you who are familiar with Joe, every time I see that picture, it makes me giggle. Those of you who are familiar with Joe Rogan knows that Joe Rogan is really into the Stoned Ape Theory. And, you know, I find it interesting as well that the idea that, you know, early primates, like this little fella here, found some of that, what is they, Amanita muscaria? Sometimes I really miss Hill Hippie. Yeah. He would know. Yeah, and psilocybin. So these, what I like is that the monkeys don't usually ponder something they're about to eat. They usually just pick it up, sniff it, and then eat it, you know? And, I mean, they'd sniff it, and they'd obviously pull it off a poo, and they'd be like, oh, it smells like poo, but I'm going to eat it anyway, because that's a monkey. All right, so the idea is that by ingesting psilocybin, by tripping their balls off, these monkeys, you know, somehow developed a capability of like higher brain function, which led to the evolution of our human brains as they are today, which I think is an incredibly interesting concept. After all, you know, it's like some people compare like the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil could be the psilocybin mushroom, you know, because after they ate from the tree, You know, Eve was cursed with the childbirth. That means that she was passing bigger and bigger brains, poor women, bigger and bigger brains, making childbirth even more horrible. And so, you know, but because of that, we've developed the, you know, ability to use tools, language, computers, as far as we've gotten, based upon a couple of monkeys tripping balls, all right, expanding their mind. Now, this also opens up a lot of interesting concepts in the sense that if humans take lots of mushrooms now, if they take a lot of psilocybin now, does that mean our brains could become even more evolved over time? And if that is true, and if the stoned ape, huh?
Sign me up.
Yes, I mean, sign me up. But if this stoned ape theory is true, you know, and which would correlate that if we ate a lot of psilocybin mushrooms, that it would open our brains even more. That very concept is this concept that actions that you take in your life can somehow rewrite your DNA and change the way your species develops. That means that we have the capacity to program ourselves, to program the way humans evolve. That's a very, very big thought. That's bigger than the stoned ape theory thought. But that's where this concept leads us. And that's why I like this theory. It's very interesting. Listen, I'm going to tell you straight up, drugs are bad. All right? Don't do drugs.
The possibility of the next generation.
But if science can learn something, like, for example, psilocybin has had like some effect in treating people with migraines and so forth. And I think even like, what's that called? Palliative care, people who are dying, they'll give them like psilocybin or DMT or something like that, and it'll like ease their death anxiety. So I think that there are if science is allowed to like truly study the effects of these kinds of drugs and find out where it could all lead us, absolutely, let's do that research. I'm not saying the research should be like it is with marijuana, where it's just like the heaviest strain of marijuana ever created on every street corner in the United States, which I think is kind of a terrifying thought. You know? I know what weed is. I know it's cool. But all day, everybody all day? What a nightmare. So the stoned ape theory, I think that's a great one. Let's go on to this next one. And I'm going to lead with a Bible verse. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. Ladies and gentlemen, Agartha, the hollow earth theory. I like EK said, it looks like a vagina. I was like, yes, yes. It's, well, this picture is not from the Bible. The verse is from the Bible. All right. I like what, I think Jordan Peterson covered this correctly. It's like what this verse means. And God made the firmament, which divided the waters. The firmament, meaning the earth, which divided the waters which were under the earth from the waters that are above the earth. All right. And so some people claim that that's an argument for the hollow earth theory, that there is an ocean living inside a hollow earth. All right. But really what Jordan Peterson said is that it explains why if you dig down in the earth for far enough, you can reach the water table. You can get water. It's more of a practical thing. It's like, you're thirsty, start digging. That's how wells get made. All right. But there's some people who claim that it's talking about a hollow earth. Now, ever since Journey to the Center of the Earth, I think it's like the idea of a hollow earth really started gaining traction. And if you remember, if you read Journey to the Center of the Earth, there's a section where they go into this hollow land. It's an illuminated land. See, if you see that little, where it says swang, that's supposed to be a star in the middle, which kind of makes my BS meter go off. All right, it's like, how's there a star in the middle of the planet? But I will say this about, imagine Earth when it was like in the volcanic era. You know, it's just a swirling mass of magma. You know, there's steam in the atmosphere. You know, the atmosphere looks a lot like Venus because our atmosphere is so strong that it holds all the moisture in. Well, a great deal of the moisture in. But as it starts cooling, as the planet starts cooling, it starts cooling from the crust inward. But this planet is still spinning. And so what happens to all the goo inside? The goo inside is still churning. Then it starts cooling until it reaches a stopping point when liquid water starts forming as it cools off. and it creates this hollow world inside the world. Now, there's plenty of cultures that claim to have sailed into, like when people were searching for the Northwest Passage, people got so lost that they end up creating maps of Agartha. If you ever look on YouTube, look for the Lazaria map collection. It's hilarious. It's all these old maps that people who are trying to find the Northwest Passage, you know, past the Northwest Passage over North America, would come across these silly lands. They would claim they would like go into the inner earth, see all sorts of strange creatures and stuff like that. You know, even in the 20th century, there's a guy named Admiral Byrd. He was in the Navy, and after the Second World War, he claimed to have flown into the North Pole, ran into like some UFOs or something like that, and talked to them. This is the rumor. This is all the rumors I've read about it. All right, it came back to where, like over here, where is it? North America, towards New York, maybe D.C., down over here. And so he went and talked to his superiors, and it all got hushed. And the next thing you know, Admiral Byrd is taking a fleet down to the South Pole, where supposedly there was a German base called New Swabia, where the Germans apparently went into the inner earth through the South Pole. And apparently there's all sorts of ways to get in and out of Agartha from cave systems on the earth, because there's all sorts of caves all over this planet that haven't been fully explored. So it's an incredibly interesting concept. And when it comes to this Heroes Unlimited game that I play, my imagination ran wild with that. This whole inner earth area exists in my game world, and it's filled with all the magical creatures from all your favorite fantasy games. There's trolls, there's nymphs, there's goblins, there's dwarves, there's elves, there's cannibal Sasquatch. There's a Nazi society who's taking over the South Pole with a reincarnated body of Hitler, like a mech suit Hitler. There's Avalon, where like the line of Merlins and the line of Arthurs rule, you know. There's Hyperborea, based off of Greek society, and all these Buyan. All these are like, I named them after these fictional lands that were once claimed to have existed, or even like floating islands that come and go. So, I mean, it's an incredibly interesting concept that really unlocked my imagination. And so I think could it be true? Maybe. If it's true, I don't think there's a star in the center of our planet. That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense. But I mean, maybe? Likely not.
A nuclear core that's suspended in the sky?
Oh, EK says the star could be a nuclear core suspended in the sky. You know, I keep meaning to tell you, I don't mind if you want to jump in, but you got to plug a mic in. You know, because everyone, it's like, I'm sitting there, when I watch it over again, it's like, Madman just sits there and is like listening to his voice in his head. Yes, master, I'll say that. All right. So, Agartha, that's a really cool thing. All right, so I want to talk about my favoritist of conspiracy theories, and that is the Voynich Manuscript. This is beautiful. I know it looks like it was. I know it looked like it was drawn by your kid. I know this is like I don't take that out of context. I know it looks like it's like some dirty drawings an 8-year-old did. But I mean, it's number one. It's hard to get high quality images of this thing. All right, the Voynich Manuscript is a centuries-old leather-bound book that is filled with all sorts of strange drawings. I wish I could find a stranger drawings. There's there's drawings of social interactions, drawings of like strange plants, strange, all sorts of flora, and this weird elf-like writing. And now look at this writing. I mean, there's like I think Arabic script is probably the most beautiful, aesthetically beautiful language on earth. And this rivals it. I think this rivals it because it is incredibly beautiful. Cryptographers from all over the world have tried to decipher this quote-unquote language, which the cryptography training in me tells me it's probably gibberish. So, I mean, so the question is like, because there's all sorts of flora and like there's like medical information that they can't understand. It looks like it's talking about medical stuff. There's also like a big picture of a devil towards the back of the book and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of like speculation. Could this be an alien book that somehow ended up on Earth? Could this be a demonic book that came from hell and is like up on Earth and nobody can read it because nobody knows how to speak angelic or whatever language that is? Or it is the most interesting fraud ever made on Earth, and still remains so. All right? As a person who, maybe I'm biased because I'm a person who collects comic books, but I want this book. I want it so bad. It's probably the most rarest, it's the rarest and most interesting book ever created, if you ask me. All right? Because if it is just some artist doodling, making these doodles, and then making up some weird language script and trying to pretend like it's some sort of like alien text or demonic text, that it fools people for centuries, makes people go, for centuries. Now, I suggest that you go look up more information about the Voynich Manuscript, because it is fascinating. All right? Because I barely scraped the surface of what I'm talking about. But I mean, if it is a hoax, it's the most brilliant piece of artwork I've ever seen. I love the Voynich Manuscript. I want it. Get it for me for Christmas, please. Or you could just, if you can't afford it, go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. All right, we'll talk about one more thing before we get into the news. Don't worry, we'll get to the news. Is Nephilim. And that means giants, Goliath, Bigfoot, etc. Now, the idea of the Nephilim, I think, originates from the Bible, where they talk about, and in those days, there were great men of renown, and the demons, the angels that were cast out of heaven came to earth and reproduced with the women or whatever, and made these giants. And so these giants were like half like demigods, basically. They were bigger, stronger, etc. And that's where you get the legend of David and Goliath, because Goliath was this Philistine soldier who was apparently huge. And I don't know if you've ever been to downtown Fredericksburg, but all these door frames, a lot of those door frames, original ones, are really short. You know, so I mean, if somebody was like 6'2" in the year, negative 300, yeah, he was a terrifying giant that could rip people in half. So that, for all you know, it's, it's what exactly was Goliath? You know, in perspective. You know, it's the same thing with like Bigfoot and so forth. It's like, yeah, there could be giants. It's like, are they giants that are so big that they could build Stonehenge? I don't think so. I think that, giantism is a very real thing. Just go to an NBA game. Those guys are monstrous. And so, I mean that in a good way, because, you should be monstrous if you're playing like sports like basketball, football, and so forth. But I mean, giantism has always existed within human, genetic mutation. And so that's what I think, because like when a giant is born, and they got the giantism disease, or I don't know, a gift, I suppose, it's not like their whole body's bigger, but all their organs are small, and so they're all just like dangling inside them. No, it's not like that at all. It's like usually they have a series of congenital things where like even their heart is enlarged, all their organs are enlarged. And people who have like giantism tend to also have a lot of series of other genetic abnormalities, such as polydactylism. I think I got that right. It's polydactylism, where you have like 6 fingers on a hand, and then you get like murdered by. And they all got murdered by this guy named Inigo Montoya. And so that's why there's no more giants anymore. And so that's one for the ladies. Every girl loves Princess Bride. So because of all the series of other like genetic ailments, it's like they tend to have short lives and die young. But in their prime, they could be strong, powerful, menacing, and like, giants of men. And so I think that has always existed in humanity. And I don't necessarily think it's like angels cast out of heaven, like coming down and banging all the hot chicks here on earth. Who could blame them? I mean, I guess I understand their motivation, but I mean, what's more realistic? The genetic mutation, because sometimes that's what genetics is all about. Genetic mutation is all about. You pop out somebody, it's like, hey, does humanity need a big guy? He's like, hey, I can't reach stuff on the second shelf. Excellent, we got a tall guy around now. It's like, oh, I can't seem to get into the pipes, and Mother Nature pops out a little tiny person. And you're like, oh, I got little tiny hands. I can get in there and fix that engine for you. I remember I had that Japanese car, and my cousin and I were working on it, and we got these big meaty hands, and he's getting mad because he keeps getting his hand jammed in between these engines made by these Japanese people. And so he'd sit there and say, we'll make the engine so tight together that these that these Americans in the fat cheeseburger hands get stuck all the time. I know you might think that that's racist, but I'm sorry. I think that is hilarious. We'll get revenge for dropping the bombs. bunch of fat-handed white people in America with their hands stuck in Japanese engines. So, the Nephilim, do I believe it? I don't know. Until, people say they'll claim to find bones that are like larger than normal and stuff like that. And I don't know. I think that there's plenty of giants around today. And people want to think that they were bigger. And I don't think so. I think that's just after genetic mutation happens. And I think additionally people like that may be ostracized from their communities. And that's what led to the rumors of Bigfoot. It's like eventually these tall people who were, ostracized from their communities ended up wandering out into the wilderness and, meeting up with other tall Amazon chicks and having babies and living out in the woods, That's what I think Bigfoot is. It's just a bunch of survivalists and got picked on when they're kids. It's like, screw humanity. I'm going to play hide and seek for generations. Anyway, it's time to get into the news worth knowing. Don't worry, I told you I was going to get into the news worth knowing. Because everyone's like, Rhonda Santis, who is she?
Rhonda Santis?
Yeah, Rhonda Santis? Who is that? But we'll get to that here in a minute. We got it's the news worth knowing, so obviously I'm only going to talk about the stuff I think is worth knowing. Because I don't want to talk about that some jackass backing into the gate of the White House. And, it's I will say this. This is like an honorable mention for that jackass who like rammed the White House with the U-Haul truck. And they said, oh, look what we found, a Nazi flag. And it's like, yeah. It's like the FBI just doesn't have enough people who are in the Navy in the FBI because they have no idea how to make a false flag convincing. Anyway, so let's go to this most important story. Afghanistan document shows that Biden didn't heed warnings ahead of withdrawal, Representative McCall says. So President Biden's administration failed to heed certain warnings from U.S. officials on the ground in Afghanistan prior to the president's withdrawal operation in 2021, a top House Republican says. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCall from Texas viewed a State Department document detailing the concerns diplomats at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul had at the time of the withdrawal. McCall worked for months to access the document, known as a dissent cable, through the subpoenas and a threat of contempt charges before viewing the documents himself on Tuesday. Quote, the dissenters were absolutely right about everything they said, and it was a warning to the administration about what was going to happen and what they needed to do, McCall told Punchbowl News in the interview, adding that dissenters deserve a medal. Quote, unfortunately, the administration didn't heed all their warnings, and we got what we got, he added. Very matter of fact, sir. McCall viewed a version of the document that had the names of the dissenters redacted. Only he and Representative Greg Meeks, the Democrat from New York, the ranking member of the committee, were permitted to view the document. See, that's what I love about our system of government. They have these two people, a Democrat and a Republican. They both get to view this secret document. Meeks argued that the document revealed that no new information. However, it puts to rest the whole thing about having a subpoena and the president is hiding something or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know how good it is. Democrats are stupid. He sounds dumb. Anyway, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken had for months stonewalled McCall's attempts to access the document, ignoring multiple subpoena deadlines and offering half measures such as a briefing on the document's content rather than looking at the document itself. That's not fishy at all. McCall did not make any progress until earlier in May, when he threatened to hold Blinken in contempt of Congress for blocking access. Even so, he and Meeks were allowed to view the document on Tuesday, despite McCall's wish for every member of the Foreign Affairs Committee to gain access. It is unclear whether McCall will continue to push for other members to access to viewing the document itself. He had initially threatened to go into the criminal contempt process on Wednesday. His office clarified that the next steps have yet to be set in stone. Quote, I'm thankful for Secretary Blinken for allowing myself and Ranking Member Meeks to view the dissent cable channel cable, an unprecedented occurrence. However, every member on our committee shall be granted this same access, he said in a Wednesday statement. Although I cannot discuss the classified information in the cable, I can say the dissenters were right. and that the administration should have listened. I'm going to speak with Ranking Member Meeks and my Republican and Democrat colleagues on the committee to discuss our next course of action if the State Department continues to block all committee members from seeing this cable as a subpoena requested. So, I know, I whine a lot about bureaucracy and stuff like that, but there's like checks and double checks all along the way when it comes to this classified information and so forth. And like, for example, it's like these dissenters, is like they asked their diplomats in Kabul. They said, it's like, here's a plan that we are considering. What is your opinion of it? And so like a whole bunch of people, officials and diplomats and stuff like that would give their opinion about this withdrawal. And everyone said, yeah, let's do it. Or no, we shouldn't. And like, here's the reasons why, There's checks and double checks down the way, but the ultimate authority, the buck stops at President Biden's desk, and he made the wrong call. So don't think America doesn't work. It works just fine if it's used correctly. All right? And when Anthony Blinken is trying to block access, members' access to the information they should have the right to, that's obstruction, if you ask me. Hopefully, soon, the chickens will come home to roost on all this stuff, because what a fustercluck Afghanistan was. Let's go to the next story. A protester arrested for throwing brick during San Francisco Mayor London Breed's chaotic open-air drug hearing. I guess the big news is you said this in public? Mm-hmm. Why didn't you hide in a closet and record a TikTok video or something? No, not TikTok. Don't use that. Anyway, so a protester was arrested. Wow, San Francisco arrested somebody. Wow. Protester was arrested for hurling a brick Tuesday during San Francisco Mayor London Breed's chaotic outdoor hearing centered on cracking down on homeless open-air drug markets. San Francisco Board of Supervisors President Aaron Peskin had decided to move the mayor's regularly monthly meeting with the board down the block from City Hall to the United Nations Plaza, which has grown rampant with drug dealing and stolen goods sales. Let's have this talk where it's happening. Quote, "We can't keep speaking out of both sides of our mouth," Breed said in a fiery 5-minute speech. I guess she wanted to be quick. On one hand, we want change, and we want to hold people accountable, and on the other hand, we're willing to let people get away with murder. That's a Democrat, right? Said something reasonable. Quote, we have to make all kinds of decisions that we're going to allow for people to get the help and support they need, but to not allow things to continue the way they have for far too long, the mayor said. It's time for a change. Peskin started to grill the mayor on a request that he had outlined in the letter earlier in the day to establish an emergency operations center for multiple agencies to coordinate response and shut down open-air drug markets like the one in the plaza in the next 90 days. Heckling and chants of "no more cops" from the large crowd were so loud that Peskin moved the meeting back to City Hall before the mayor could answer. At one point, a protester rushed up towards where the city officials were standing and threw a brick. The brick struck female Galilea High School student and a member of the junior ROTC troop. Is that two different people? I guess maybe it's one person. Who helped raise the American flag at the start of the meeting. Supervisor said, who reportedly left the UN Plaza. There's somebody who deserves a medal. The minor student was not seriously injured. Could you flip that? Because the serious student was not minorly injured. No, that didn't work. The minor student was seriously injured. And law enforcement soon detained the protester on the ground. The San Francisco Police Department later identified the suspect as 26-year-old Alyssa Catet. The San Francisco Chronicle and San Francisco Standard both reported. Online jail records showed Catet was booked on charges of child endangerment and assault with a deadly weapon. Quote, "The young person in the plaza today was a violent protester, threw a brick, is only another tragic example of how we are losing control of our public spaces," Peskin said in a statement later Tuesday. "If we can't guarantee everyone's safety when the mayor and her security team are present, we have lost control of our public realm." Yeah, but you'd think it'd be, the safety of everyone, not just the mayor and her security detail being safe. And that is what our shared mission is, to regain control of our public spaces so they are safe and clean for everyone always. We simply can't defend this status quo. We must continue to demand change. Peskin, a progressive, has argued that the city has sufficient resources but lacks coordination. Breed's emergency management department leader earlier in the day had confirmed a pilot program that allows state law enforcement to intervene in removing people using drugs who are in danger to themselves or others off the streets, which liberal critics condemned as plan essentially to arrest drug users. Which let me see if am I reading this right? Which liberal critics condemned as a plan to essentially arrest drug users. Yes. People who are breaking the law, yeah, you should arrest them. It's not like saying we're gonna hunt down heroin junkies in their homes. All right, just on the park bench. All right, relax. Quote, the people who live here, the folks who work here, the people who experience these challenges every single day, they deserve better, Breed said, according to the Standard. Why should someone else's rights be put before their needs and their safety and what they deserve too in places like San Francisco that claims to be so compassionate and liberal? What about them? I got an answer for you, but we'll get to it. He went on to say, I get that people have an issue with the fact that we are looking at being more aggressive with people struggling with drug addiction, the mayor, whose sister died of a drug overdose, added according to the Chronicle. I want to make sure that person doesn't die. How do we do it? Force is going to have to be part of it, whether people like it or not. Compassion is killing people. Correct. When you get all laissez-faire with these people, they're going to just take over your streets, which is what has happened in these liberal cities like San Francisco. If you want to help these people, throw them in prison where it's a lot harder for them to get their drug fix that they need. I'm not saying that no contraband ever gets into a prison, because it always does. But what I'm saying is that if you want to help these people, throw them in prison, let them dry out, and then get them into programs. But the problem is that as soon as you let them free again, they're going straight to their dealer again. All right? But it begins with putting them in prison or even mental asylums. Bring those back. Where people are essentially locked in, where they cannot get access to the drug fix that they need. And then you can have counselors and stuff like that. You don't put counselors in the squad cars. You get big buff guys to put people's hands behind their backs and cuff them so you can get them to a place where they're drying out and they can talk to a drug counselor about breaking their addiction habits. It seems pretty simple to me. Am I so much smarter than everyone else? Yes, I am. But this seems elementary to me. All right, let's talk about what Karl Rove thinks about about Rhonda Santis, whoever she is. Karl Rove predicts poll titan between Trump, DeSantis. Oh, it's Ron DeSantis. It's two. Okay, my bad. All right, DeSantis says Florida predicts polls. Karl Rove predicts polls tighten between Trump, DeSantis as Florida governor enters. It's almost a tongue twister. So Ron DeSantis is set to formally enter the 2024 Republican primary field on Wednesday. Let me refresh the news, see if it's updated. Open link in new tab. Is this how you do it? You new tabs, or you just go to the next page and hit back and stuff like that? All right. Scanning the headlines. Yeah, I don't see anything official yet. Nope. Okay. All right. So, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is set to enter the Republican field on 2024 on Wednesday, announcing his bid for the White House on Twitter. DeSantis is largely seen as the biggest contender for the GOP nomination next to former President Donald Trump, but critics say the governor has his work cut out for him to win the nomination. Hold on a second. He said that on Wednesday, he announcing his bid, so he must have tweeted it today. It's like, why do I got to go to Twitter for the news? Anyway. Twitter isn't news, people. Quote, right from the start, he is going to be a target. Fox News senior political analyst Juan Williams said Tuesday on the story. He's already a target from President Trump and his number one rival. It's a big difference in poll numbers, but he's the number one alternative. Fox News contributor Guy Benson argued DeSantis has to be the strategic has to be strategic in running his campaign because he wants to appeal to a large swath of both Republican voters and Trump supporters. Some of those supporters are let's say, soft supporters. He doesn't want to actively alienate them, but he does want to raise certain differences, points of difference, where he would make the case that I'm a better bet for the Republican Party for the future of the movement in general and the opportunity to serve, he said on the story. An average of polls from Real Clear Politics from April 21st to May 18th found former President Trump holding a commanding lead over the rest of the 2024 field by nearly 37 points. And unfortunately, I did find this out on Twitter when there was a poll. It's like, who would you vote for? And I clicked DeSantis and like Trump, like twice his numbers. And I'm like, oh, God. Republican strategist Karl Rove, I don't care what he has to say. So, yeah, it looks like DeSantis is in the race. 56.3 would say Trump. 19.4 would say DeSantis. Pence, Haley, Ramaswamy, and Scott. I don't know. I don't think they have a chance. I mean, I like Ramaswamy. I like Senator Scott. I mean, I think they could be good presidents. But, yeah, I think they got to wait. Trump and DeSantis are clearly the ones that are going to be fighting for this title. And so I think it's going to come down to debates, because Trump can handle a debate. But, Ron DeSantis thinks quick on his feet, too. So I think that would be incredibly interesting. I'm actually looking forward to debates between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, because I think that could swing things in Ron DeSantis' favor, where Ron is saying to something like Ron is saying to Don. It's like, you lose your temper, you're too egocentric, It's like every plan I have is brilliant. Every single plan is brilliant. It's like I understand you got a lot of ego, but you got to entertain the possibility that you could be wrong. And I think that's far more, relevant a trait to have in a president of the United States. Anyway, this is all long down the road stuff. But we'll see what happens. It's not like I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump if he wins the primary. Anyway, let's talk about how stupid women are. Not all women, obviously, but these women in particular. And the note I made for this particular entry, which is, hey, some women marry serial killers in jail. So, whatever. So, Joran van der Sloot, is this name familiar? Joran van der Sloot, the prime suspect in the 2005 disappearance of Natalie Holloway, has quote-unquote fans worldwide who send him an average of $400 per month. That's not a whole lot, according to his Peruvian lawyer. Van der Sloot, who's the prime suspect in Natalie Holloway's disappearance during her senior class trip to Aruba in May 2005 with the Mountain Brook High School of Alabama. He's facing charges of wire fraud and extortion in the United States after allegedly trying to sell Beth Holloway, Natalie's mother, information on where her daughter's body was located. What a piece. Anyway, the Peruvian government ruled earlier in May that that he would be temporarily extradited to face trial in the U.S. Federal prosecutors say that van der Sloot asked for $250,000, $25,000 up front for the information, and the rest being paid out when the body of Natalie Holloway was positively identified. Van der Sloot lied about Natalie Holloway's whereabouts, prosecutors said. His lawyer, Maximo Altez, that's a cool name, told Fox News Digital that van der Sloot has worldwide fans who send him money monthly while he's in prison. Altez says van der Sloot responds to all the women who send him letters. Quote, all his fans from all over the world sent letters to Joran. I rented him a P.O. box to receive them. Some letters brought 10 euros, 20 euros, $5. They were girls who wrote to him, sent him letters with money, and he answered them all, Altez says. He also added that van der Sloot receives about $400 per month. The letters, this is a quote, the letters did not arrive at the prison. They arrived at the P.O. box. That way you can keep the money, I guess. Van der Sloot is in a Peruvian prison for the murder of 21-year-old Stephanie Flores in 2010. This is a different person. His original sentence was 28 years, but he got more time because of a drug smuggling scandal in prison. Van der Sloot isn't the only nefarious criminal suspect who receives money and letters from people from all over the world. Brian Kohberger, who is charged with the murder of 4 University of Idaho students, also receives love letters from people all around the country. One Facebook user claims to be a single mother from Kentucky who has sent dozens of love letters to Kohberger, saying that the suspect is her divine masculine counterpart.
Lock her up.
You know, it's things like this. Is like, I'm okay with dying alone now. If this is the kind of women that are in this world, a killer, a convicted, imprisoned killer, you're in love with them? Why? Is that like the most alpha thing to do, is to kill another human being? And that's what makes you gush? Sploosh? Anyway. Dennis Rader, also known as BTK killer, received so-called fan mail and even money while inside prison, according to his daughter. This makes me so angry. What is wrong with you people? What is wrong with you? Anyway, I got to lighten this up. I got to get into the lighter part of the news. Let's all laugh a little bit and think about the kinds of things you would allow to be put up your bum. Indiana officials find scissors hidden inside arrested man after a body scan. Deputies in Indiana found a pair of scissors inside the anal cavity of an arrestee during a required body scan before he was booked into jail. LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Jeff Holt, Assistant Jail Commander of Operations at the LaPorte County Jail, was assisting jail deputies at the intake of an arrestee on May 17th who refused a secure pass body scan. I guess that's a brand name or something like that. The reluctant arrestee eventually agreed to the scan, and when reviewing the images, Holt observed a foreign object lodged inside the man's anal cavity. Because of his training and experience... I'm sorry. Because of his training and experience, Holt was able to recognize the item as a metal object. The arrestee was then escorted to another room for an additional search. Probably more invasive, I would imagine. Yeah, we had that one day in the body scan class where it was like how to detect scissors up someone's butt. It looks like scissors. What else does it look like? There's a goose face in there or something. What could it be? I don't know. The arrestee initially refused to cooperate with the deputies. Are you going to put your fingers in my... What? So the second body scan was completed. Holt noticed in reviewing those images that the object had moved, allowing him to positively identify it as a pair of scissors. Scissors were then removed from the arrestee's body without incident. I don't know. There had to have been an incident of some sort to get them out. Wouldn't you say that? Like pulling something out of somebody's butt is an incident? Something you'd certainly remember for everyone involved. You can't say without incident. All right. The Secure Pass body scanner has been used at jail since it was incorporated at the jail until it was incorporated in 2017. Jail deputies have since removed several peculiar items, including tattooing equipment, drugs, paraphernalia, miscellaneous foreign objects, and now scissors. So, hold on a second. So, my question is like, do criminals like keep a go bag in their prison wallet at all times? It's like, well, you wake up in the morning, you're like, hey, babe, yeah, I got to go do the crime job. You know, got to go sling drugs and all that. You know, murder people, exploit women, you know, for money. Where's my go bag? And your go bag? Yeah, it's the bag I shove up my butt every day, just in case I get arrested. So when I get to jail, I can have, you know, I could start up my tattooing business again and with some drugs, so I have a little cash on me, you know. Do criminals do that? It's like, well, there's a possibility I might be arrested tonight, so I'm going to shove some stuff I might need next week up my... Anyway. Quote, the body scanner is incredibly state-of-the-art tool to ensure the safety and security of all people within LaPorte County Jail. Lieutenant Holt is commended for relying upon his training and experience and successfully preventing a dangerous edged object from making its way into the jail. Captain Derek J. Allen said in the statement. Yeah, I have a lot of questions. I wonder, or like maybe he gets a letter from a friend in the prison. And he's like, I'm making this tapestry. No, I'm a seamstress now. I'm repairing everyone's clothes, but I really need a pair of scissors. I'm tired of biting them. The thread gets frayed. You got it's a pain in the butt. Yeah. I'll never understand it. It's like even people who like putting stuff in their butt. I don't get it. I really don't get it. All right. And there's about 500 people. Well, let's be honest, 12 people out there yelling. It's like, you've never had anything up your butt. That's why you think that. Yeah, you're right. I do think it's interesting when people explain that, like putting stuff up your butt. And it's like, it's real hard at first, and then all of a sudden your body just says, I'll take it. Just boom. Like, oh yeah, well, I got it. Don't ask me how I know people. Well, you probably know. I was in the Navy. All right. Michigan teacher brought to tears as students. Okay, this is going to be like heartwarming and stuff like that. Michigan teacher brought to tears as students' family surprised him after his final round of chemo. High school teacher in Michigan was recently greeted by a large crowd of his family and friends, and he completed his last round of cancer treatment. Brendan Harrison, who is also the baseball coach in Saginaw, had completed his 12th round of chemotherapy as he fights colon cancer. Ooh, according to Storyful. On May 8th, Harrison exited the health care facility and was met by an overwhelming round of applause, cheers, and handmade posters and hugs. The heartfelt moment was captured on video. I'm not going to show you the video. I'm afraid. See, I like putting the images up there, but I'm afraid of like putting like video up because it may crash the computer. Anyway, we don't know. Anyway, with a ringing bell, while ringing a bell, the tearful Harrison could be seen embracing his family, friends, and students and boys on the baseball team that he coaches. A patient ringing the bell is a ritual which often takes place at the medical facilities to signify a milestone in cancer treatment, according to Oncology Nursing Society. Oh, I thought he like ordered a drink and gave a big tip or something. Don't they have a bar at every hospital now, don't they? Well, they should. Harrison was diagnosed with colon cancer in October of 22. His sister, Morgan Harrison, told Storyful. Following the diagnosis, Brendan Harrison immediately entered surgery to remove a cancerous mass, the media source reported. After 2 months of recovery, he started chemotherapy, which has been ongoing for the last 6 months, Storyful shared. He is a teacher, this is a quote, he is a teacher and a high school varsity baseball coach, so you can see his team along with many friends and family gathering together to congratulate him for such an accomplishment, Morgan Harrison shared with Storyful. On that Monday, when they arrived at the treatment center, the Bay City Western baseball team tweeted photos alongside Harrison, who is also known as Coach Bubba. The whole team is here to support him, the post read, in part, love you, Bubba. Fox News Digital reached out for the Harrison family for comment. You know, it's this kind of like concept of community that America needs to get back to. You know, the people in your lives are the people directly in your lives. They're not your Facebook friends. I mean, there's some crossover, obviously, but they're not the people you follow on Twitter. They're not the madman. You know, I'm not your best friend. Unless you're like directly in my life, then maybe you are my best friend. It's like, there's a best friend. You know, I got there's a best friend right over there. Okay. But I mean, they're directly in your life. Like everyone in the world, like most everyone in the world can see this content. That doesn't make you my friend. It doesn't make you a part of my life. EK is a part of my life. And so he should be celebrated more than you, no offense. You know, it's like the sense of community is like a proximity thing. It's not a digital thing. It can never be a digital thing. Yeah, you can find some support in the digital world, but it's not the same as people coming to you when you're in the hospital. You know, which is what friends do, you know. And I know it's kind of weird to say your Facebook friends are like friends. It's like, no, not really. Not really. Not like real friends. And that's the kind of community you need to get back to. Wow. It makes me feel good. I like ending in a positive note. I was like 10 minutes ago, I was furious.
Being a positive mood,
Yeah.
the rest of the day.
Yeah, because I mean, I got to walk out of here and go live the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So, I try to compress. Like people say, like you should minimize your social media thing, and this is social media. YouTube here is social media, and it's I truncate, I compress all my anger and frustration into around like 2:30 every Wednesday. And it's like I ramp it up to 2:30, and then I try to get a denouement towards the end. And so this is, I try to limit it. And so people who actually like doing an hour video every day, not only does that sound exhausting, number two, it seems like you're doing it too much. You're going to end up repeating yourself. I get frustrated when I repeat myself. As have I told you today how much I hate horses? Well, I do. Follow my Twitter. Every single thing I see where like some horse is kicking somebody, I'm like, see, retweet that. I told you. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you again that I have patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate it very much. Shockmonkey Radio is the cash tag if you want to send me money through Cash App. At DNALETSAW, that's the word wasteland spelled backwards on Twitter. Shockmonkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Also, check out my books. They're available for digital download on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, or you can follow the links down in the description below. This has been Shockmonkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.